three different ways to give. Way number one to give is you help somebody, no one knows you did it. You did it anonymously. That's the purest way of helping people. The second way is you help somebody, the recipient knows about it also. That's what most people do, right? The third way is you help somebody and then you go bragging about it and like tell everybody else and posting about it. That's the third way. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Brian Driscoll, and today we're going to be talking about writing a book. So, give you a little bit of background. I know a lot of people want to write books. A lot of people do write books, and I wanted to write one, say, for the last 10 years, and it's always been in the back of my head, and I finally pulled the trigger on like writing a legit book. I know I've written manuals and things for like marketing, stuff like that, but I'm talking like, I don't know, 20, 30,000 word, like a real book. So what I want to do is I just want to walk you guys through the process of what I've learned, what I experienced, and maybe it'll help you guys out too, right? So over the last like 10 years, I've always had an idea that I wanted to do something more impact related, not necessarily business related, but I wanted to put something out there to inspire people to be kind, show people it doesn't take big actions to make a difference, things like that, right? About March this year, I went on to Brett Snodgrass's podcast, and we had an episode that was called Small Acts Make a Big Difference. So I went on the podcast. It was cool. We talked about some things, and he sent me his book afterwards. He sent me a packet. It sent me his book. His book's called The Secret War Within. And normally, people send me books all the time. Normally, I don't read them that much. But for some reason, I picked his up, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, man, this storytelling is really good. Because I know Brett. And I'm like, how did you, like I know him and I'm sitting there listening to his story. I didn't see that coming out of him. Like, it was like really, really good storytelling. So I hit him up. I'm like, hey, dude, how did you write these stories? Because it's like a lot of people write books and they don't really have like they're more like a, I don't know, like a textbook manual type of thing. But his, like, you see it in your head. So I'm like, okay, how'd you do that? He's like, well, I hired a coach. So he introduced me to her. And I chatted with her, and I hired this coach also. I'm like, hey, here's what I want to do. I want to write a book. I've never really written a book. I don't even know where to start. Like, what do you do? We had weekly calls, one call per week, roughly about an hour. And she would just pick my brain. And now I'm talking about writing a book. I'm talking about writing a book from my brain. Like, I'm actually writing this book. So I just want to be clear here because there's a lot of ghostwriting. And ghostwriting's cool if you want to do that, but that's just not what I wanted to do. So this coach doesn't pick your brain and write the book for you. They're picking your brain and like coaching you on how to write the book. So just wanted to clarify that. So I'm talking with her like once a week, and she just asking me this question. She's like, okay. And looking back at it, she was trying to structure what my thoughts were. At the end of the first one, she'd be like, okay, what do you think the book's about? So I would just ramble and just give all these different things. And she would say, okay, here's your homework. She said, your homework is to go sit for 30 minutes. Take a pen, which I did this on a computer, but she said it's called free writing. And she said, what you do is for that entire 30 minutes, start writing about the topic and don't stop and just let it take you where it goes. So basically, picture this. If you're writing with a pen, you're going to continue to write. The pen's not going to leave the paper for 30 minutes. You can start talking about why the sky is blue and at the end talking about why you like muscle cars. So you just kind of like let it go. Whatever pops in your head, you write that down. And I thought that was really interesting. And again, if anybody's thinking about writing a book here too, this was really cool for me because I started doing this. I'm like 30 minutes in. I'm like, dude, that felt like 5 minutes. It's almost like all the information just came right out of my head. Keep in mind, it wasn't organized. There were typos. But what it was doing, it was allowing me to pull the things out of my head so that she could see, okay, here are the things that I think are important. And then what she would do is she would go through that and she's like, okay, here, I picked these pieces out. This is one of your chapters. She's like, so what we did is we did that for like 4 or 5 weeks, give or take. And we would just keep going through and doing the free writing. And then she would pick things out and try to structure it for me, which was cool. And at the end of the time with her, she's like, okay, here's what I recommend your outline to the book would be. Based on, I probably had 100 pages in a Google Drive, like a Word doc of writing, like just like random stuff. Like, who's your target audience was one of them. Why do you think people should read the book? What is the book about? What's the goal? Like, each one of those was a free write and you write on them. And then it gets you clarity too in your head, what you're trying to accomplish. So at the end of the 6 weeks or so, I had an outline. So I'm like, okay, this makes sense for me now because it's manageable. Because I was thinking, I want to write a book. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what to write. So now I have a structure, and that helped me a lot, right? So I got a structure, and then I started writing it. I did the same type of thing. I started free writing, but now it was targeted free writing. It's like, okay, chapter 1 is about this. And then you free write about that, and you actually start writing your chapters. So that was kind of cool. So number one, I wanted to let you guys know on that, because if you're thinking about writing a book too, I'm a believer in jumping out of the airplane and building the parachute on the way down, right? And I've always been this way. I'll start doing things. All I need to do is take that first step. So I started with her. I'm like, I don't have a clue what I'm doing, but I'm just going to do this first. And what that did, free writing led to chapters or chapter outline. And then once we got there, I'm like, oh, geez, I got to write this book now. But then I just started writing chapter 1, and it kind of flowed. And then I'm going to take you through the rest of the process, though. But it's like, from my point of view, just starting it and taking that first step leads to the next step. I don't worry about the second step when I'm starting, because I'm going to be like, I don't even know what I'm doing to begin with. Like, I do this a lot in my life, basically. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I know where I'm trying to get to, and I think this might be the first step. So I'm going to do it, and then we're going to continue on and go down that road, right? So one thing, it was interesting too. I talked to Brett, and I'm like, hey, I'm writing the book. And he says, hey, make sure to enjoy the process. And I think that's an important point also, not just necessarily with books, but like with anything, especially like hard things that you do in life. It's like, take a step back whenever you're doing it and enjoy the actual process of doing it. Because whenever it's done, you're going to look back and see, oh, I just did all this work. But it's kind of cool just to take like 5 minutes, maybe not even 5 minutes, just take a little bit of time and just be like, okay, and sit and enjoy where you're at now, because you're never going to get this time back. So it's like, okay, right now, like currently in my life right now, dealing with cover design, editing, things like that. So it's like, okay, take a second and take this in also, versus just always focusing on the goal and push, right? So I thought that was pretty interesting for that to bring that up to you guys. So what I did was, so here's where I'm at. I just finished up the rough draft. So it's a rough draft manuscript. It's like, I don't know, 100 pages or something in a Google Drive, in a Google Doc. The full manuscript book, rough draft, typos, stories, most of the way composed, things like that. And in this case, so I'm like, okay, now, like I was saying before, I get to go with start looking at a book cover. So book cover, I'm looking at different options. And you guys can check these places out too, even for even just digital stuff. Like if I'm looking for a book cover, I'm going to Fiverr. I'm also checking with some people I know that publish books, like that do that for a living. I'm probably going to pay them to make me a couple covers, get a couple covers from people on Fiverr, and then see what I like and go that direction. Because I don't know what I want there yet, right? Interior design, you hire someone professional for that. You can do that with someone with Fiverr or a professional. And then you got to do a website. So that's the things that are coming. I got to do a website, all the things there, all the like scorecard, all that kind of stuff that I'm putting in the book, the handouts. So those are the things I'm doing right now. So basically, I just wanted to make this episode on my experience writing a book, because I don't consider myself an author. I'm just starting to do something. So it's new for me. And anyone who's experienced in the same situation that wants to do something, whether it's a book or whether it's something else, I would say just do it. Just get into it. Here, I'm going to give you a little backstory on what the book's about too, because we have a little bit of time here. So the book is called The Goodness Game, right? And a little bit of backstory on it is I was pissed at my parents back when I was like 18 years old. So I used to get in a lot of trouble when I was younger, right? So I was pissed, and I took a trolley downtown Pittsburgh, and I went to the Greyhound station, and I was running away. I'm like, give me the next bus leaving. The next bus leaving was going to Orlando, Florida. Hopped on there. I had maybe like $250. I had a red duffel bag, and I'm out of here. So I hopped on there. I took the bus, and if anybody's taken a Greyhound bus before, you don't just go to Florida. Like you're going to Washington, D.C. and then to Nashville. You're taking like 10 different pit stops and changing buses. So I get down to Florida, and I find a hotel, $25 a night. I got $250 or two. I forget how much it was, but I had a little bit of money. So I was able to stay there. I remember I was able to eat a 69-cent 69-cent hamburger from Wendy's and a water, right? Wendy's that's when you can get hamburgers for 69 cents. So didn't have a plan, didn't know anything. I was young and stupid, right? So I started running out of money after a little bit, and I found this place. They have these places called job labor pools. That's where you can go sign up. It's like what you see in the movies. You go sign up for this place. Some dude comes in the morning in a pickup truck. He's like, hey, I'll take you. I'll take you. I'll take you. I'll take you. Grabs like 10 guys and takes you to the job site. You make like $25 a day. So I started running out of money, and I did that. the one job we were working on, it was kind of cool. We were building a tree. Looking back on it, I'm pretty sure it was the Tree of Life in Disney's Animal Kingdom. But my job was to carry scaffolding across the parking lot. Like they were taking scaffolding down all day long. Their parking lots are huge, just taking scaffolding, right? So needless to say, I'm doing that and I ran out of money. I didn't have enough money to stay there another night. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm not calling my parents and I'm stubborn, you know? So what I decided to do was I started walking to the Greyhound station. My thoughts are, I'm going to sleep there tonight. Hopefully they don't realize that I don't have a ticket, and I'm going to figure out what to do tomorrow. So I grab my stuff. I start walking, super hot. It's during the daytime. And I'm walking down the road to the Greyhound station, and some lady picks me up, or she comes on the side of the road. She was in a black Geo Tracker, pulls up beside me. She's like, hey, it doesn't look like you belong here. Where are you going? I'm like, well, I explained it to her, and she's like, she took me back to her house. Her and her son was in the car too. They took me back to their house, let me stay with them. And her husband actually worked in the hotel industry. He helped me get a job down there. So I'm like, first, who picks somebody up on the side of the road, right? And at the time, I'm just rolling with it. I didn't think there was really much weird going on there, like odd, which is not weird. It's just like totally out of the norm. So I'm at her house. They put me up. They helped me out. And I'm going to make the long story short. So what they did was they got me a job and they put me up in a hotel. It was like one of those ones that have studio things. They're a little bit more expensive, but it cost $300. So they put me up in a hotel for like 2 days, was $300. And the deal was I'm going to start the job and I'm going to pay her back. So I'm like, okay, cool. Right around the same time, there was a hurricane coming in. My uncle lived in Fort Lauderdale, and I did end up connecting with my mom when I met this lady, and he needed help boarding up his place. So I decided to go down to Fort Lauderdale with him, help him board up. And what happened was I ended up coming back to Pittsburgh. Reason I tell you that is some lady in Florida gave me $300, and I don't know who she is. Like back then, I don't have her phone number. I don't have anything. So that's kind of what triggered the way I roll now, right? So I started paying it forward to people. I'm like, I can't pay you back. I'm going to pay it forward. I'm going to help people out and try to help other people because I don't know who you are. I don't know your phone number. I don't know anything. So I'm just going to pay it forward. One thing I did was I posted an ad on Craigslist. I'll put a link in the notes here because I'm not going to go whole way into it. But you guys can check it out. I put an ad on Craigslist basically saying I picked a random city, which was Chicago. I said, hey, I'm going to come to your city for the weekend. I'm going to help you guys out. I don't want anything in return. All I want you to do is pay it forward. Put the ad on Craigslist. I got blown up with replies, right? A lot of people needed stuff. And the interesting thing was they didn't need help with big things. Like I had a lot of weirdos hit me up and stuff too, but like the normal people, they didn't need help. Like one guy needed help. He needed a ride to go pick up his truck and he didn't know anybody and he was buying a new truck. Keep in mind, this was before Uber. One lady needed help taking down a swing set that she got for free off of someone else on Craigslist. She just needed help taking it down and getting into the truck. Another guy needed a car battery. He was the only person I actually had. It cost money. Everybody else I was paying with sweat. One guy needed help. He was helping somebody else gut their bathroom. And he said, yeah, if you can give me a hand gutting it. I helped him for a couple hours. So it's like all these real small things, you know what I mean? So here's what I did. I got in my car on Friday, drove to Chicago, drove straight. I don't know. It was like 8 hours or 10 hours or something. I got there on like a Friday night. I went and did this stuff Saturday and I'm back home leaving Sunday, right? Here's what I did though. I wanted to test and see, could you do something and document it and inspire other people to do it as well? So what I did is I made a YouTube video I made a video. I didn't even know I was putting on YouTube. This was back in like 2009, but I made a video, came back, was recording it like a little camcorder. I came back, put it on my computer, used Windows Movie Maker, slapped everything together. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to stick this on YouTube. I didn't know what was going to happen. The video went viral. So the video went viral and it made national press. It actually made worldwide press, I think. But it was on the front page of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette 2 days in a row. It was on the Huffington Post, CNBC, all these different news channels, right? And the interesting thing was they allowed me to do it anonymously. Because I told them, I'm like, I don't want my name tied to this. I just wanted to see if we can inspire other people. So I'll put a link to that stuff in the show notes. You guys can check it out. The reason I did that, though, is I just wanted to see what happened. I'm curious. I'm like, okay, can one person do something and make like a snowball that you can push going down the hill and have it compound? And this showed me that I could. So I'm like, okay. And this was 2009. So I've been thinking about this ever since then. I just didn't know really what to do. So I realized the takeaway here is I realized first thing is most people want to make a difference in the world, think they have to do something big and grandiose. And it's really like the small things that make a difference, right? So I've been toying around with like, what do I do? What do I do? And I come to today. It's like, okay, I'm going to make this into a book. It's like, okay, what are you going to write a book like on how to be nice to people? So I'm tossing around, and then the coach that I was working with for the book writing, she's like, well, how about we make it into a game? So we started talking. So what we're doing is it's called the Goodness Game. We're making a game that you can play with whoever you want. You can play by yourself. You can play with other people, whatever you want to do. You can play with your kids. And I'm just going to give you like the basic layout just so you guys know, and I'll keep you posted because like I said, this is just like rough draft stage, but I can keep you guys posted on the progress and whenever it comes out. So here's what it is. It's a game. First, you got roles. So in this book, you got the roles. First role is give without remembering. So it's like, you don't brag about helping people. Like normally I never even ever talk about this stuff. I'm just doing it now to try to like see what happens here and see if we can inspire others and see how far we can take it. So the first chapter is give without remembering. So I break it into 3 things. There's 3 different ways to give. Way number 1 to give is you help somebody, no one knows you did it. You did it anonymously. That's the purest way of helping people, right? The second way is you help somebody, you know about it, and the recipient, the person you know, knows about it also. That's what most people do, right? The third way is you help somebody, the person you help knows, and then you go bragging about it and like tell everybody else and posting about it. That's the third way. So rule number 1 is you give without remembering. You can give following step 1 and 2, but we don't go brag about it, right? The only reason to tell other people is if you're going to try to inspire them to do something. For example, if you're trying to help your neighbor that has a health issue, you want to help them, you need to involve other people, so you need to pull them in. Maybe you want everyone to take one night, give them dinner for 2 weeks. So now you got to pull in other people. So it's like, okay, we're going to collaboratively help them. Not necessarily bragging, but you're telling other people, right? So that's rule number 1 in a nutshell. In the book, I elaborate a lot more in depth. Rule number 2, not everybody's your assignment. So it's like everyone in the world, you can't help everybody in the world. For example, if somebody has mental issues or maybe a drug problem and they come to me for help, I'm not the guy to help them. I'm not qualified. What I can do is I can connect them with the right people, but in like that area, I can't help them. So you have to know you can't help everybody. Not everybody's your assignment. Pick and choose and be smart about that so you're not actually being like counterproductive. The third thing is identify your helping style. So I came up with a quiz, but I broke these down into helping styles. For example, money helper, energy or empathy helper. You could be a sweat helper, connecting helper, or thinking or intellectual helper. So money helper. I do this frequently. It's where someone needs money and I help them out with money. I don't spend any effort. I almost don't even think about it. It's like, hey, I got the cash. I can help you out with money. So that's where I fall, right? Some people got money. Some people got time. Some people got sweats, whatever you got. The energy and empathy helper, my wife falls more along the lines of this. She's the person, she works with, she's a paraprofessional. She works in school and helps kids with special needs. That's not my helping style at all, right? I would not do well in that situation, but she knows that that's how she does really well. And so she helps there. Sweat helper, that's like if you need help moving, things like that. Like maybe that's your thing. Maybe you can go help people cut their grass. Maybe you can do whatever. You're paying with sweat. A connecting helper. Some people are just connectors. So, and the point of this is there's a quiz to tell you, you take it and it will give you kind of an idea on what type of helper are you? Like what type of things are you built for? Because we want to do things that give us energy, not take energy away. Like for example, I could be an empathy helper, but I'm going to be freaking beat after doing it because I'm not built for that. And then thinking intellectual helper, that's the 5th one. That's when you can help collaborate with people and help them through things, maybe in business or whatever. Maybe they run a fundraiser. Like you can help them with different things and collaborate, right? So rule number 4, create your budget. What we're doing here is it's like create a budget, just like you're budgeting your money. You need to budget time or you need to budget your energy, things like that. So don't ever extend yourself is basically what that chapter's about. Okay, so number 5, you want to keep score. Different things because everyone can do things and it's like marketing. I can run a bunch of marketing campaigns and I can think they're going well, but unless I keep score and actually track the data, I don't know if it's any good. You know what I mean? So in here, we're going to keep score too. We're going to look at, okay, what did we do? I paid for somebody's coffee at Starbucks, right? What energy did that take out of me? Say on a scale of 1 to 5. That was like a 1. Okay. And then we're looking at here too, how do you feel when you do these things? So it's not just necessarily helping other people, it's how do you feel as well? So what's your mood before you did it on a scale of 1 to 10? What's your mood afterwards, 1 to 10? Who was involved? And any notes? And then what we're going to do is we're tallying it up. We're looking at a return on impact. Similar to a return on investment, which we use in marketing, return on impact. It's like, okay, I gave a 1 energy level, didn't take me much energy. I was in a mediocre mood. I'm in a better mood, cost me $3. I helped someone brighten their day and it made me feel good. That has a fairly high return on impact, right? So we're looking at things like that. And then you're going to have data that you can look at and you can even share with people too if you want. It's like, okay, I did these 50 things. And it's not necessarily to look at one by one, but it's to look at over, say, a month. How did this affect other people? And how did it affect your life too, right? And then it goes into the compound effect, like basically the same thing we were just talking about there. How does helping a stranger make a difference? The thing is, a lot of times you're not going to know. That's where it kind of gets cool too, because you can imagine like, okay, I just did that. I wonder what is going to transpire from that in the future. You never know. Like this lady picks me up in Florida. She does not know how big of an impact she's made in my life, right? She just thought she hooked up some kid, gave him $300, put him in a hotel, and he ripped her off, which was me, right? That $300, she doesn't know anything. So it's like when you're helping other people too, it can be making a huge difference, right? And then you got the inner effect like we were talking about. There's different things. You got oxytocin. They call it a helper's high, win-win situations, things like that. You're benefiting your life too when you're helping other people. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of the process. So first, what I was dealing with when I decided I wanted to write a book, the action that I took to actually start doing it. Now I at least have the rough manuscript done. And then you can see through the process too, because it's really easy for people to be like, yeah, I wrote a book. Here it is. Go check it out on Amazon. But there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more things that suck. There's a lot more things that you need to think about. So just wanted to let you know. I'll give you a heads up when it comes out. I'll keep you posted. If anyone would want a copy of the book when it comes out, shoot me an email. Just send it to Brian at Brian with a Y, BRYAN at motivated-leads.com. But anyways, hey, thanks for listening, guys. Get out there, crush it, close some deals. We'll see you next time.